Okay, alright. Hi everyone, Nothany Face Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Sault album, 9. This is the latest full-length LP from the anonymous London music collective known as Sault. They've been having a kind of prolific run over the past few years, and beautifully in the midst of it all, they've been able to maintain this sort of shadowy presentation, which is especially impressive in the social media age. If you have no earthly idea what I'm talking about, go back and listen to their 2020 output, Untitled Rise, Untitled Black Is. Records that are not only packed with tracks that are in direct response to the uprisings of last year, but also stark and creative production that brings together elements of hip-hop, jazz, soul, psych, funk, post-punk, and more. Sadly, they were records that I was slow to hop onto, and not covering them was, unfortunately, one of my biggest regrets of last year. Now, of course, I couldn't miss another opportunity to talk about the group's music, especially in light of being filled in on them a little bit in a recent conversation with UK rapper Little Simz, who appears on this LP. Now, she didn't spill too much information about the size of the group, who's in the group, or anything like that, but she did sort of imply this revolving door of collaborators, and also that I wouldn't believe some of the people that are in the group. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some really notable musicians in Sault's midst. The production is so creative, the musicianship is good, and the creative direction is on another level. And 9 over here comes attached to a kind of interesting concept as well, as this project was released with the understanding that it would only be available for 99 days. So yeah, streaming, downloads, all that. As soon as 99 days are up, this thing is gone. But still, going through the process of recording, releasing, and then taking away this record does certainly say something about the permanence of media in the digital age. Now, with that being said, comparatively to their previous releases, 9 is not one of the more robust Sault projects, that's for sure. I think overall it does kind of pale in comparison to their 2020 records, but there are still some highlights. London Gangs stuck out as one of my favorites here. I loved the jazzy drum breaks, the distorted bass loops, the trip-hop influence on this one is huge. The vocals and much of everything else are soaked in this eerie atmosphere that's sort of been a trademark of Sault's sound up until this point. There's something kind of haunting about all of it. Meanwhile, the lyrics are reflecting on gang culture, cycles of violence and destitution. I also love the folk melody that the bass and vocals lock into between the verses, la 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 la. There's also the track Trap Life, which has these fantastic drum circle rhythms, some cute cartoonish group vocals as well, which I think is one of the unique draws for 9 in Sault's discography so far. The cheeky refrains the group vocals are singing are so funny, but yet also acknowledging some really grim realities. Like, the imageries are really gritty, but simultaneously there is a childlike innocence to the la 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 la. The whole track eventually breaking into this noisy cross-cultural beat switch featuring some shouty MIA-type rap flows on top of it. Then Alcohol is a change of pace in that it is a very downtrodden neo-soul ballad with a great vocal performance. Just a devastating addiction dirge. The title track is a kind of whimsical psychedelic ballad as well that I like quite a bit, but my issue with some of these songs ultimately, and I guess the record on the whole, is that here and there, while there are some great ideas brought to the table, there's just not enough meat on the bones. They're not built on as thoroughly as they could be. The track Fear, I think, is an example of this. The steady groove on this track is fine, the building layers of buzzing bass and vocal chants, some spoken word as well reflecting on pain. But the way the whole thing progresses, it kind of builds and builds and builds without much of a payoff, eventually just dropping out. Bitter Streets had some great ideas, but kind of a one-dimensional structure as well. And You From London was the track I was referring to earlier with Little Simz on it. I like the concept of the track. It contributes to this record's sense of place and also is one of the funnier moments here. I also appreciate the fact that while Little Simz is featured on the record, her voice is manipulated in a way where it seems like she's coming like out of that Sault universe. But with that being said, I do think this track features one of the more half-baked beats, and I think another verse really would have brought things home. Lights in Your Hands I thought was a fitting closer for the LP. It's a powerful track with some gospel inspiration, a strong lead vocal, eventually transitioning into this spoken word passage talking about just dealing every day with fear, anxiety, what that does to your mentality as a kid, eventually transitioning into an adult. While I think the track does lose some momentum in this change, it does gain a lot of meaning, not just for itself, but for the record as a whole. Yeah, overall, I think this record really just kind of boils down to being left wanting more at the end of the day. It's pretty good and continues to advance Sault's unique sound, but I also think they've come out with better, and have my fingers crossed that we'll be hearing more from them sooner rather than later. I'm feeling a strong 6 to a light 7 on this one. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, music, Sault, forever.